As I watched the season come to an end last night, the Dallas Cowboys, they're done, they're out. There were a couple of similarities that I have to admit match my own life, not just yesterday or this year, but beyond the season into the decade. The Cowboys and I have followed a very similar, painful journey. I'm Loren Norris for Leading Leaders Podcast. I just want you to understand that you and I, we're not so much alike. I mean, not so much unalike. We're not so different. We're probably a lot more alike than you think we are, in that we're both human and we have some of the same struggles on a daily basis. It's really easy to get caught up in the circumstances as they are, the current circumstances, just like we see them. Well, because that's the present, that's where we are, and we don't have a whole lot of options other than to realize this is where we are, this is the life we live in. But it's really easy sometimes to let that reality become the only story that we tell. I currently have this many bills, I currently have this many problems, I currently have this kind of health issue, I currently have this kind of thing going on in my life, whether it's a drama-filled relationship, it's a career that you don't love, it's an accomplishment that you've just plowed your head into for years and you can't seem to get past it. And we all seem to have that. The Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl in close to 30 years now. But they have a team that ranks in the top offenses and in the top defenses. And sometimes they have this sparkle of glamour and glitz and superpower, if you will, that you just look at and go, wow, why don't they play like that every time? Let me ask you honestly, do you forget football, forget politics, forget all those other things? Do you ever have a moment in your life when you look in the mirror and you think, that was awesome? And then the next moment you're falling apart at the seams. The wheels have come off. Life has dealt you a blow and you're going, what just happened? How do we go from that was awesome to what just happened so quickly? Here's a better question. As we go into 2020, into not only a new year, but a new decade, how do we change the rhythm of our lives to not live in the circumstances asking, well, what just happened? But instead to live on the mountaintops, if you will, to walk in that place where more of our life is successful, more of our opportunity is successful, more of our reality is successful because we've learned to manage the accomplishments, the successes. Now, I've written a lot of words in the description of this video, and I want you to take some time and follow the steps in there. There are a lot of questions that I've asked you to ask yourself. The same process I'm going to go through over the next 24 to 48 hours, myself, with my wife, with a couple of my coaching clients, to be honest about the realities of, that was awesome. Because we very seldom, beyond the moment of that was awesome, take the time to inventory all of the that was awesome moments in our life. Do we take the time to be grateful for them? To make a list of them and go, that I did really well. See, there might be some indicators as to what we could do better in the future if we made a good inventory of what we've done well in the past. Jack Canfield and Bernie Burchard both talk about it in their books. Make a list of your accomplishments, even if they're little. Not just the little tiny ribbon that you got from your Toastmasters or your bake-off, your cookie bake-off or your chili cook-off. And not just those little tiny ribbons, but the big giant trophies as well. The pay raises, the accolades from your boss, the article that was published in the newspaper, the big win that got you on the media. Whatever it is that you look at and go, that's an accomplishment I like to hang my hat in. Let's not just look at it like many people would and go, yeah, let's put the trophy on the shelf and forget about it. Instead, let's ask the question, what led me there? What caused me to do the things of excellence to accomplish that success? Better question, what other things have sprung from that success? And Who was involved? See, when you begin to ask those questions about your successes of the past, it's real easy to get past those three things that will change your future. These three things done wrong will destroy your future. And that is number one, living in the current circumstances. Always telling the story of the current circumstances, always focusing on current circumstances, which then causes you to compare, and you go, well, my car's not as nice as their car, my house is not as nice as their house, my book is not as big as their book, my video doesn't have as many views as their video. And it's real easy to walk away from that and go, well, because my circumstances don't look like their circumstances, then obviously I'm the failure.
Which one?
They have the successes, I have the failures. That's not what you want. Well, nor do you want to look only at the mistakes and go, well, I really messed that one up, and I missed that target, and I didn't accomplish that, and so, well, I must just be done. I should just check out. And when we find ourselves doing those two things, then we find ourselves also telling a story that looks like, I'm a failure, my circumstances prove it. Now we're right back in the same cycle, right? Look at my circumstances. Look at my circumstances. They prove I'm a failure. So I'm going to tell the story of my failures, which are going to bring me back to the same circumstances. Now look at my circumstances. See, I proved I'm a failure. And it's real easy to get caught in that cycle and completely forget about all of the little ribbons and awards and trophies and gigantic accomplishments that we've had. It's real easy to look at the fumble and forget the touchdown, to use my weak sports analogy. But instead, what if we looked at all of the things that we thought about, wanted to accomplish, all of the ideas that have come to mind, all the brilliant moments in the shower or driving down the road, or the thought that came to mind while you're having a conversation with someone and you wrote it down and you thought that would be a brilliant idea, I think I'll do that, and then nothing happened. Now chances are, if you look back a year or a decade, or for some people just a couple of days, there's a pretty sizable list of those things that you thought that would be a great idea, and I would be the one who would do that. And yet nothing has happened with it. There's a chance if you look back over that list now, you will find some of those things you're like, okay, now that I've thought about it, that's not such a great idea. In fact, John Maxwell talks about how sometimes he'll have that inclination in the middle of the night, he'll jump up and he'll write it down in his journal, and he'll close it and go back to bed, wake up the next morning and read it and go, what was I thinking? I obviously hadn't had enough sleep at that point. That is a dumb idea. Why would I ever think about doing that? But then some of us have those brilliant ideas that wake us up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and we don't go back to sleep at all. And by the time we're done, we've got pages and pages of notes. And yes, that's how this podcast began. What do you do with that kind of thing? Do you scrap it? Or do you go into the next year and say, well, what other accomplishments have I had that if I married those ideas together, if I married that energy together, if I married those people who helped me succeed before together with this idea, then what would happen? I believe if you'll take the time to make a list, to look at your grand accomplishments and begin to build your thoughts around those accomplishments, as small as they are or as large as they are. Make a list of all the other accomplishments that came from that, and then make a list of people who are involved in that. As you look into the future, ask yourself, which of these things that are still on my list to do, the things that I still want to accomplish, the things still on my bucket list, how many of those marry up with my successes of the past? How many of them could I transfer the energy from one to the other? How many of them could I transfer the connections, the people, the friends from one to the other? And what would happen if I did? I want to challenge you as we come to the close of 2019, of this decade, of this season of our lives, and we look forward to the next. We know technology is going to continue to change. We know relationships around the world, geopolitical things are going to continue to change. We can't compare ourselves to anybody else's life, their failures or their successes. And if we continue to focus on our circumstances and compare ourselves, we lose. If we continue to focus on our mistakes or our misses, we lose. But in light of all of what's going on around us, if we can focus on our gratitude for those things that we have accomplished and use that energy toward the things that we have yet to accomplish, I believe we can set new standards for ourselves in excellence and in taking action, and truly shape the story of our future. If you need some help with that, send me a private message. We'll schedule some time, whether by phone or by Skype or by Zoom, or sit down at the coffee shop. We'll spend a half an hour and kind of work through where your list is for now. And if I can help you beyond that, I will. And if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, grab a copy of Live a More Excellent Life. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it from my website. There's even an online course that will help you walk through creating a vision for your life and working out some of these personal story issues. 2020 is a bright opportunity for you in the future. And I challenge you to take every advantage you possibly can to make it a great success. And one of those starts with matching up your future ambitions with your past successes. That will change your story. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.